Hey y'all, welcome to the Lewis House. Happy Thursday. I hope you're enjoying our beautiful yellow wall. Becca hates that color. That's one of the many things that we're going to paint someday. But you're in our bedroom right now, so welcome. Glad you're here. Um, I am alive and well, as you can see. I'm having a really good week. Besides, I cannot kick this sinus headache thing. I've never had allergies in my entire life, and I've never really had headaches in my entire life until now. So I don't know if that means I'm getting old or if I am just readjusting back to Texas agriculture. But either way, it's pretty frustrating. But I'll get there. I'm going to do a lot of reading today, though. You'll have to forgive me, all right? I don't want to be boring, but I do really love this lesson. Um, I hope that it's an encouragement to you. It sure has been this afternoon as I've read through it. There's a lot of great stuff in the book of Deuteronomy, no less. The book of Deuteronomy to me is awesome from top to bottom. But anyway, I hope you look forward to sharing this stuff with your students. A few things that I think are noteworthy about it. From option two, I really like the question, do you think most students are lawbreakers, and explain? I absolutely want you to ask that question. Oh, and also a little bit farther down, it asks which of the Ten Commandments do you think is the most important? Which of the Ten Commandments do you think is the hardest to keep? Ask them those questions, and then let me know what their responses were. I'm genuinely curious to hear how they're going to respond to those. I suspect you are too. It's a lot of stuff that we can glean from that, and that we can use to help teach them as we move forward together. But be sure to ask them those questions. I think they're really good questions, and something that we can learn from. A couple of additional passages that I think would be an encouragement to you, a really good supplemental reading for this lesson. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 11 through 20. This is farther on down the road in Moses' farewell address. Specifically, this is the portion of the scripture where Moses says, I've placed before you life and death, blessings and curses. And then he pleads with them, please choose life. It's really, really powerful. You can almost imagine hearing him as he's pleading with his people, these people that he's led for 40 years and he loves dearly. Um, that's the way that we need to be lovingly teaching and preaching to our students. But also, what I love that little section about is right there at the top in verses 11 and 12. It talks about how God has not left us alone. Yes, He's given us these commandments to follow, but He's not left us alone. Tack that on with John chapter 14. Again, the last half of the chapter. It's verses 15 through 31. This is Jesus talking, and several times in this section, Jesus makes the statement, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. What's beautiful about this, though, is this also where, intertwined in all of that, he keeps referencing the fact that the Holy Spirit will help us. It says specifically that the Holy Spirit will remind us of God's promises and help us to keep them. So God has given us this law and He expects us to follow it, but He's not left us alone on our own to do that. He's empowered us to do that. So let the students know that. Whether you share these verses with them or not, don't let them forget that. We want them to feel the weight of the law, but also we want them to feel the power of the Spirit and the love of God, and that He's not left us alone to accomplish these tasks by ourselves. I absolutely adore verses 10 through 21 of Deuteronomy chapter 10. I really want you personally, but also with the students, read this passage slowly. It is so, so good, y'all. It should be a balm to your heart to read the things that God says about Himself, that God says about us, and the things that He wants to do for us. In fact, I want you to think about it in these terms, okay? God describes Himself in these ways. God is faithful, He's great, He's fair, He's good, and He's kind. And I want you to tell the students that, because God says this about Himself, and then ask the students this question. If you know this about God, why wouldn't you want to follow Him? If you know that somebody's good and faithful and kind and gracious and 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 and, and excellent and fair, why would you not want to follow that person? It's just like our spouses. When our spouse is good to us, why would we not want to love them? Why would we not want to take care of them? It's a beautiful thing. This is what God does for us. It's why we can follow Him. So read that section slowly and let them see God's kindness, even in His law. Okay? And then the last thing, the bottom of page 120. That little paragraph there, shoot a monkey, let me get to it, sorry. Um, it's so, so good. Let me read it to you. As noted through these sessions, God gave the law to a people whom he had already redeemed. The commands of God were never, ever intended by God as a way to earn salvation. In fact, the laws about sacrifice were given to guide Israel in what to do when people broke the law. The law was meant as a blessing for the good of God's people. Remind the students that the law is God's way of showing us how much he loves us and to protect us. Use the fishbowl analogy. I taught the students the fishbowl analogy this past Wednesday night. God's laws are like a fishbowl. They're not there to ruin the fish's fun. They're there to protect the fish and to give that fish vibrant life that he could not have any other way. This is God's law for us. So proclaim that to them passionately, graciously, and then remind them most definitely, because this is a very gospelicious lesson, the beauty of the law is that Christ has fulfilled it so that he saved us, and now he's given us the power to follow him with all our hearts and minds. Guys, I love y'all. I'm sorry I'm a little bit long today. I can't wait to see you on Sunday morning. Bye-bye.